My wife's sister's wedding planner called. We need $50,000 more for the venue. I said, tell the owner to call me directly. She laughed. Honey, you can't afford this place. I smiled and hung up. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. You know how people say bad news always waits until you've had your first sip of coffee? Lies. Mine came mid-sip, just when it was getting good. That perfect bitter edge that convinces you maybe, just maybe, you'll survive adulthood. I was in my home office, surrounded by invoices, a half-eaten muffin, and the faint delusion that today might actually go smoothly. I had spreadsheets open, quarterly reports on screen, my empire humming along. Yeah, empire, don't laugh. It's not the kind with dragons or castles, but it's mine. A chain of luxury resorts, a handful of boutique hotels, and enough rental properties to keep my accountant both rich and terrified. Life was stable, predictable. Then the universe, with its usual sense of humor, decided to dial my number. My phone buzzed, and the screen flashed a name that could only mean drama. Bella Cruz, wedding planner extraordinaire. The kind of woman who puts extraordinaire in her email signature, because humility's for peasants. I picked up because clearly I enjoy emotional masochism. Ryan Lawson, I said, all business. Honey, she cooed, the kind of honey that sounds more like a mosquito whining in your ear. The Grand Horizon Estate just called me. They're requesting an additional $50,000 for your sister-in-law's wedding. Premium lighting, enhanced security, imported linens, rich people stuff. I blinked, waiting for the punchline. 50 grand? For light bulbs and rent-a-cops? Did Beyoncé confirm she's performing the vows? She let out this high-pitched, condescending laugh, the kind that made me want to throw my phone into the nearest body of water. Sweetheart, you can't afford this place. Maybe suggest a cute community center with folding chairs and a DJ named Chad. It'll be rustic, charming. I leaned back, swirling my coffee like a villain in a slow-burn movie scene. Bella, I said, tell the owner to call me directly. She laughed again, louder this time. Oh, sweetie, the owner doesn't take calls from random family members, especially not the ones footing the bill, but still asking about prices. That's tacky. My jaw tightened, but my voice stayed calm. Is that so? She hummed. Anyway, we need the wire transfer by noon or we'll have to release the venue. Maybe check with your bank, and assuming you don't keep your money in one of those apps that gives you free coffee for referrals. I smiled, the slow, dangerous kind of smile that happens when you realize you're about to ruin someone's week for sport. I'll see what I can do, I said, then hung up. For a second, I just sat there, letting the stupidity of it all marinate. $50,000 for enhanced lighting. What were they lighting? The runway at LAX? I took another sip of coffee and chuckled. This was going to be good. See, Bella Cruz wasn't wrong about one thing. The Grand Horizon Estate was in fact ridiculously expensive, $1,000 a minute kind of venue. But what she didn't know was that 3 years ago, I'd quietly bought it through one of my shell companies after their last owner tried to turn it into a crypto lounge and went bankrupt. Long story short, I saved it, rebranded it, and made it the hottest wedding venue in the state. The irony? My own wife's family had picked it for Megan's wedding without knowing who owned it. They love the ambiance, the luxury, the class. Meanwhile, I just sat there at Sunday dinners, smiling like a man who knew the family gossip came with a discount code. My phone buzzed again, the same smug energy in the ringtone. I considered ignoring it, but fate's got a sense of timing. Grand Horizon Estate Management, the caller ID read. Showtime. I cleared my throat, turned my chair toward the window, and answered. This is Ryan, Mr. Lawson, came a smooth, professional voice, one of my property managers, though I doubted he realized who he was calling. We've received a request from Ms. Bella Cruz to confirm additional payment for a client named Megan Townsend. Yes, I said, playing dumb. And what's the reason for the new fee? She claims it's for security upgrades and specialized lighting per the bride's request. I chuckled. Did the bride request it? No, sir, the planner did. Interesting. And she said the family couldn't afford it? The man hesitated. Yes, sir, quite explicitly. Perfect, I said. I want a full report on this by noon, and make sure she's there when we go over it." "Understood, sir," he replied, sounding curious but too professional to ask why. "Will the owner be present?" I smirked at my reflection in the glass. "Oh, absolutely." When the call ended, I set the phone down and just stared at it for a moment. You know that calm before a storm? That was me. The kind of calm that happens right before you professionally dismantle someone's ego. The funny thing about being underestimated is that it becomes your favorite weapon. People see my name, my laid-back wardrobe, my beat-up Civic, and they assume I'm barely making mortgage payments. They don't realize I could buy the dealership that sells those cars just to get the free coffee mugs. I started pulling up Bella's company site out of curiosity. Reviews, photos, even her About Me section where she described herself as visionary, bold, and unapologetically elite. Translation: allergic to humility and common sense. Half her Yelp reviews read like crime reports. She screamed at the florist. She called my mother tacky. She charged us for imported petals and used fake roses from Target. Classic Bella. I scrolled further, chuckling, when my office door opened slightly and my assistant, Jenna, peeked in. "Hey boss, you okay? You're smiling like someone just insulted you on purpose." "They did," I said. "And it's adorable." She blinked. Should I be worried?" "Not unless you're a wedding planner named Bella," I said. "Then it's terminal." Jenna grinned. "So this is one of your revenge face moments, huh?" "No, Jenna," I said seriously, grabbing my suit jacket. "This is justice with mood lighting." She snorted as I walked out, mumbling something about needing popcorn. By the time I was in the elevator, my phone buzzed again. A text from Laura, my wife. "Hey, Bella says there's a crisis with the venue. Call me ASAP." I sighed, grinning to myself. I'd call her back in a minute. First, I needed to let Bella dig her hole just a little deeper. I stopped by the hotel's rooftop cafe for another coffee, double shot because pettiness burns calories, and leaned on the railing, watching the city. It's funny how people think money changes you. It doesn't. It just makes you quieter, while everyone else gets louder. And today, the loudest voice in the room was about to get very, very quiet. I replayed our earlier call in my head. The way she'd dragged out "sweetheart," how she'd said "you can't afford it," with that perfect blend of pity and superiority, and it wasn't even about the money anymore. It was about the tone. That smug, nasal confidence that rich imposters weaponize when they think they've cornered someone. I checked my watch. 9:42 a.m. She had maybe 2 hours left before her world tilted sideways. I took another sip, savoring the taste of soon-to-be chaos. Look, I'm not a vengeful man by nature, but I'm a businessman. And in business, there's a sacred rule. Never let a con artist walk away thinking they won, especially not when they try to scam your family. So yeah, call it petty, call it theatrical, but I call it Tuesday. As I walked back to my office, I texted Marcus, my operations guy, to get the paperwork ready. He replied instantly, already compiling. Should I add the audio logs? Of course he had them. The man treated company documentation like gospel. Yes, I texted back. And book a meeting at Grand Horizon for this afternoon. Make sure Bella's invited. Tell her the owner insists. I hit send and smirked. This was going to be glorious. Back at my desk, the phone rang again. Another unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity killed the cat, and apparently the cat had coffee. "Mr. Lawson," the voice said politely. "This is Grand Horizon Estate Management. The owner has reviewed your inquiry and will personally address the situation later today." "He will?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. "Indeed. You've been invited to attend the discussion at 3 p.m. "Perfect," I said, barely containing my grin. Tell him I wouldn't miss it for the world. When I hung up, I laughed out loud. The kind of laugh that makes coworkers peek through your office glass wondering if you've lost it. But I hadn't lost anything, but I was about to gain something far better. Satisfaction. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, beats the look on someone's face when they realize the broke brother-in-law they mocked over overpriced lighting happens to own the chandelier above their head. I leaned back, folded my arms, and whispered to no one in particular, "Showtime." If there's one thing I've learned about running an empire, it's that sometimes the best part of being rich is pretending you're not. People tell you their real opinions when they think you can't afford to buy them lunch. And let me tell you, I've heard some stuff that could make a priest swear. So when my phone buzzed that morning and I saw Marcus Daniels' name pop up, I already knew two things. One, he wouldn't call unless something big was happening, and two, someone was about to regret their entire career choice. Marcus was the kind of guy who looked like he was born in a suit. Sharp, calm, always a step ahead. He'd been with me since the early days, back when my hospitality empire was just a fancy word for two struggling hotels and a dream I couldn't afford. "Morning, Marcus," I said, sipping my third cup of coffee. "Tell me you're calling to say we've uncovered a hidden tax loophole or that the IRS finally sent us a thank you note." He chuckled. "Not quite, sir. I just received a rather unpleasant phone call from a woman named Bella Cruz." "Oh, this should be good," I said, grinning. "Do go on." "Apparently, she's demanding an additional $50,000 for a wedding booking at the Grand Horizon Estate. She mentioned your sister-in-law's name, Megan Townsend. And let's just say she wasn't shy about her opinions on your family's financial capacity." I leaned back in my leather chair, which cost more than my first car, and let that marinate for a second. "She told you we couldn't afford it, didn't she?" "She did," Marcus said dryly. Her exact words were, and I quote, "These people are completely out of their league." She also implied that the family might have borrowed money to make it happen. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my coffee. "Marcus, remind me again who owns Grand Horizon Estate." "That would be you, sir. Through Lawson Estates Group, incorporated 3 years ago in Delaware, operating under Horizon Holdings LLC." "Beautiful," I said. "Music to my ears. So, our beloved Bella has been insulting the owner's family while demanding a $50,000 tip for her ego. You couldn't script this better. What would you like me to do, sir?" "Marcus, cancel her contract, send a formal notice?" No, I said, twirling my pen between my fingers. "Let's have some fun first. Set up a meeting for this afternoon, make sure she's there in person. Tell her the owner wants to discuss the upcharge face to face." Marcus paused, clearly fighting back a laugh. "You want me to tell her the owner will attend personally?" "Oh yes," I said, grinning, "and make sure she has no clue it's me. I want her at peak confidence, really feeling like she's running the show." "Understood," Marcus said. "Shall I bring the contract?" "Bring popcorn too," I said. "This is going to be fun." The second I hung up, I stood and stretched, looking out at the skyline. My penthouse had floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city like a movie backdrop. The morning sun bounced off the glass towers, and for a moment I thought about how far I'd come. 10 years ago, I was sleeping in a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, eating instant noodles and pretending I could taste the difference between chicken and oriental flavor. Now I owned resorts across 5 states, 3 corporate offices, and the very estate where my wife's family thought they were socially climbing. Life had a funny way of circling back just so you could watch the people who doubted you choke on their assumptions. I poured another cup of coffee, yes, it was my 4th, mind your business, and pulled up Bella Cruz's business profile. The woman had a social media presence so polished, it could blind a man. Every post was a new photo of her posing next to overpriced flowers or holding a champagne flute with captions like, "Elegance is not an act, it's a lifestyle." Translation: I overcharge people for breathing near orchids. I scrolled through her website. Gold fonts, glittery borders, and testimonials that looked suspiciously AI-generated. The highlight reel boasted events curated for the elite, complete with clients whose names screamed nouveau riche energy. The kind of people who'd lease a Lamborghini just to park it outside brunch. I wasn't mad, though. Everyone had a hustle. Hers just happened to collide with my entertainment schedule. My office intercom buzzed. "Boss," Jenna said, "Marcus just forwarded you the call transcript. Want me to print it?" "Sure," I said, "and grab me something sweet from the break room. I feel like I deserve a victory donut." A few minutes later, Jenna strolled in holding a glazed donut and a smirk. "So this Bella person, huh?" she said. "She sounds like the human version of a spoiled chihuahua." "That's generous," I said, taking a bite. "At least chihuahuas don't charge you 50 grand to yap." She laughed. "You really going to meet her in person?" "Absolutely," I said. "Some people need to learn the hard way that arrogance is not a business strategy." Jenna raised an eyebrow. You could just have Marcus handle it. Where's the fun in that?" I said. "Besides, it's not every day I get to fire someone in person without HR sending me a warning email." "Fair point," she said. "I'll cancel your 3 p.m. board meeting then?" "Do it," I said. "Tell them I'm attending something far more satisfying." She smirked. "You mean the meeting or the humiliation?" "Both," I said with a wink. When she left, I leaned back again, scrolling through old financials. Numbers calmed me. They were predictable, rational. People weren't. That's why I preferred buildings over humans. They don't lie, gossip, or demand refunds for emotional damage. I reviewed my ownership records, the legal documents tying Grand Horizon Estate to my holdings, and smiled. The place was a masterpiece, a $25 million property I'd bought under a shell company, after its last owner mismanaged it into bankruptcy. I'd refurbished it quietly, using profits from my hotels, and turned it into a prime venue for society weddings. The chandeliers alone were worth more than some people's houses. The irony that my wife's family had chosen it without knowing I owned it? Delicious. Laura's family wasn't cruel exactly, just judgmental in that passive-aggressive Christmas card way. Her father, Richard, was old-school upper-middle class, the kind of guy who bragged about networking at the club, but whose biggest client was his golf buddy. Her mother, Diane, loved two things: gossip and wine, usually together. And her sister, Megan? Sweet girl, but so high-strung she could vibrate through walls. I knew this wedding was her dream event, and that's why I hadn't said anything when Laura's family insisted on paying their share. It made them feel important. It kept the peace. Until Bella opened her big mouth. My phone pinged again. Marcus, ever efficient. Meeting confirmed for 3 p.m. Attendees: Bella Cruz, Megan Townsend, Laura Lawson, optional. Shall I arrange refreshments? I texted back, yes, sparkling water for everyone except Bella. She gets tap. He responded with a laughing emoji, which, coming from Marcus, was basically a belly laugh. I spent the next few hours pretending to focus on work, but mostly imagining the look on Bella's face when she realized who I was. It's a weird kind of adrenaline rush. Not anger, not revenge. Just pure, unfiltered satisfaction. By noon, I was in the zone. I had my speech ready, my expression practiced. Casual, calm, just the right mix of charm and corporate menace. My phone buzzed again, this time Laura. "Hey babe," she said, her tone laced with anxiety. "You've heard about the extra charges, right?" "Yeah, but Bella mentioned something." "She's saying if we don't pay by noon, the wedding's off. Megan's freaking out, my mom's calling everyone she knows, and my dad's pretending not to care while simultaneously Googling bankruptcy lawyers." I laughed softly. "Relax, Laura, I'm handling it." "Handling it? Ryan, this isn't like when you fixed the plumbing in our rental property. This is real money." "Funny," I said. "That's exactly what I said when I paid off your dad's mortgage." "Not the time, Ryan," she groaned. "Megan's crying, the planner's threatening, and my mom's threatening to call the media." "Oh, good," I said. "We'll have press coverage for the event. Maybe Vogue will show up." "Ryan," she warned, "do not joke." "Babe, I got it," I said calmly. "Trust me, by tonight, Bella will be a distant memory, and Megan's wedding will be back on schedule." "You always say that right before something insane happens," she sighed. "Then you better get ready," I said, "because today's about to get real interesting." After the call, I checked the time. 2:15 p.m. Showtime was creeping up. I swapped my hoodie for a crisp white shirt and my favorite navy blazer. Not a look at me, I'm rich outfit. Just clean, confident, unbothered. I slid on my watch, grabbed my car keys, and looked at the reflection staring back at me. Most people saw a guy in his mid-30s with coffee stains and sarcasm issues. What they didn't see was the man who quietly built an empire, while everyone was too busy underestimating him. My phone buzzed once more, Marcus again. "Everyone's confirmed. She's already there, and she's being herself. Perfect," I texted back. "Tell her the owner's running a few minutes late." I grabbed my keys, pocketed my phone, and grinned. "The empire no one knows about," I muttered as I walked out the door. Time to remind them who built it. 10 minutes after I'd finished fantasizing about Bella Cruz's inevitable career implosion, my phone rang again, and this time the ringtone alone screamed domestic panic. It was Laura, my wife, the love of my life, the woman who could make me feel like a hero, and a disappointment in the same sentence. I took a deep breath before answering because I already knew this wasn't going to be a casual, "Hey, how's work?" call. "Ryan," she half shouted, before I could even say hello. "Bella just called me. She says the Grand Horizon Estate needs $50,000 or they're canceling Megan's wedding. 50,000, Ryan. That's..." "Yeah, I know," I interrupted because one of us had to preserve oxygen. "I got the call. You got the call? She said, like I'd just confessed to robbing a bank. And you're not freaking out? My mom's in tears, my sister's hyperventilating, and my dad's pretending he's fine while clearly plotting to sell his golf cart to help pay for this. Babe, breathe, I said calmly. I told you, I'm handling it. Handling it? She snapped. This isn't like when the dishwasher broke and you fixed it with duct tape. This is a $50,000 crisis. Relax, I said, trying not to laugh. You're acting like I've never dealt with high-stakes numbers before. Ryan, she said, lowering her voice into that warning tone only wives have perfected, this is not the time for jokes. Do you have any idea what this will do to my sister if her wedding gets canceled? Do you know what my mother will say? She'll probably start a group chat called How Ryan Ruined the Wedding, I said. Don't worry, I'll bring snacks. Ryan, she hissed. This isn't funny. I know it's not, I said, finally softening my tone. Listen, Laura, I promise you everything is under control. Under control? She repeated skeptically. The last time you said that, we ended up in the ER because you tried to install ceiling lights yourself. Okay, that was one time, and technically I didn't fall. I descended rapidly. You broke your wrist. Again, descended rapidly. She groaned, the kind of groan that told me she was pinching the bridge of her nose and silently asking the heavens why she married me. Ryan, this isn't just about the money. It's about my family's reputation. You know how my parents are. They'll take this personally. I leaned back in my chair and smiled, because I did, in fact, know how her parents were. Diane, my mother-in-law, was the self-appointed queen of appearances. If someone sneezed at the wrong time during brunch, she'd treat it like an international incident. And her husband, Richard, was just as dramatic in a quieter, more passive-aggressive way. Laura, I said gently, your family already thinks I'm a glorified handyman with a decent credit score. I promise nothing I do will surprise them. You're not helping, she muttered. Fine, I said, standing up and walking toward the window. You want the truth? I've got it handled. The situation with Bella, it's going to resolve itself beautifully, trust me. You always say that, she said softly, her frustration thinning into something closer to worry. You always say trust me right before something insane happens. Remember the Hawaii trip? You said, trust me, I booked the best package. We ended up staying next to a family of roosters that crowed at 3 a.m. Hey, that was cultural immersion, I said. Besides, we got free breakfast vouchers. We had to earn them by cleaning up the rooster pen. Details, I said. Look, this is different. I promise you, by the end of the day, you're going to call me a genius. I already do, she muttered sarcastically, but I caught the hint of a smile in her voice. Ryan, please don't make this worse. Me? Make it worse, I said in mock offense. When have I ever made anything worse? Do you want me to list them alphabetically or chronologically? You're hilarious, I said. Remind me to add that to your resume. I mean it, Ryan, she said, exhaling heavily. This is Megan's big day. She's been planning it since she could spell the word wedding. She's nervous enough already. Please, just don't do anything impulsive. Impulsive? I said, pretending to be shocked. I'm deeply offended. Everything I do is calculated. Strategically chaotic maybe, but still calculated. Ryan, Laura, sweetheart, I said in my most reassuring tone, you know me. I don't do drama unless it's absolutely necessary. That's literally not true. Okay, but in my defense, when I do drama, it's cinematic. Ryan, fine, I said, laughing. Look, here's the deal. I'm heading to the estate later. There's a meeting. The owner is going to be there. Wait, you're meeting the owner? She said, intrigued. Why? Because someone needs to explain to this Bella woman what happens when you insult your clients' families while extorting them for lighting money. Don't worry, I'll make sure Megan's wedding stays exactly how she wants it, minus the fraud. Ryan, Laura said carefully, you're not going to, yell at her, are you? Me? Yell? No. I'm going to be professional. Calm, cool, collected. Think George Clooney meets a corporate therapist. Uh-huh, she said, unconvinced. The last time you said that, you told our HOA president to find a better hobby than policing trash cans. He needed to hear it, I said. Anyway, this is different. This is business. You scare me when you say that. You'll thank me later, I said. In fact, when Megan walks down that aisle without a single overpriced bulb flickering, you'll probably kiss me in front of everyone. I'll believe it when I see it, she said. Just, please be careful, okay? My mom already told half her book club that this wedding is happening at the most exclusive estate in the state. If anything goes wrong, Laura, I said softly. Nothing's going wrong, I promise. There was a pause, and for a moment, I could hear the chaos in the background. Her mom's voice, Megan's muffled sobs, some kind of blender whirring like someone decided margaritas were the solution to everything. You know, she finally said, I hate that you're so calm about this. It makes me think you're either hiding something or plotting something. Why not both? I said. Ryan. Okay, I said, chuckling. No plotting, just good business sense. You married a problem solver, remember? I remember marrying a man who once tried to fix the garage door and accidentally locked himself inside it. Innovative problem solver, I corrected. She sighed but laughed softly. You're impossible, and yet irresistible, I said. You love me. Against my better judgment, she said. Fine, Mr. Calm and Collected. I'm trusting you. Don't make me regret it. Wouldn't dream of it, I said. Now go take care of Megan before she hyperventilates into her wedding dress. I'll handle Bella. Okay, she said. But if I get another call from her, I'm telling Mom it's your fault. That's fair, I said. Blame me for everything. It's tradition at this point. I mean it, Ryan. Don't cause chaos. Me? Kea, never. I'm serious, Laura. Relax, I said, grinning. It's going to be a perfect Tuesday. You always say that, she muttered. And you're always right, I replied. Eventually. When we hung up, I leaned against my desk and exhaled. I loved that woman. I really did. She was the balance to my madness, the calm in my storm, the eye roll to my sarcasm. But right now, she was knee-deep in family drama that could only be fixed with one thing, exposure. And not the bad kind. Though Bella was about to experience plenty of that too. I looked at my reflection in the window, grinning like a man about to pull off a magic trick. The day had started with coffee and chaos, but by tonight it was going to end with champagne and poetic justice. I grabbed my jacket, slung it over my shoulder, and muttered to myself, All right, Ryan, time to go ruin someone's delusion. The plan was simple. Walk into that estate, act like the clueless husband, let Bella dig her hole deeper, and then drop the ownership bomb like a Netflix twist. No yelling, no dramatics, just pure, elegant humiliation. Laura wanted a perfect wedding for her sister. She was about to get one, courtesy of the man everyone thought was just the budget committee. Some men bring flowers to their wives. I bring plot twists. There's something deeply satisfying about pulling up to a multi-million-dollar estate in a car that looks like it moonlights as an Uber on its day off. My gray 2008 Honda Civic wasn't just transportation, it was camouflage. The paint had faded to that special shade of, I gave up but still pay my taxes, and the air freshener dangling from the mirror was shaped like a pine tree, but smelled like expired mint gum. But that was the point. Nothing makes snobs reveal themselves faster than thinking they're better than you. The Grand Horizon estate sprawled across the hills like it was auditioning for a real estate magazine. Gleaming marble, fountains taller than most mortgages, and landscaping so perfect it looked CGI rendered. I parked between a pair of luxury SUVs that probably had their own trust funds, patted my Civic like a loyal pet, and stepped out with all the confidence of a man about to deliver poetic justice. Bella Cruz's BMW sparkled a few feet away, obnoxiously white, like she washed it in champagne every morning. I swear it winked at me. Inside, the air smelled like wealth and lemon polish. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, reflecting enough light to power a small town. Bella was at the center of it all, pacing in 4-inch heels that clicked against the marble like gunfire. Her phone was glued to her ear, and her tone was pure chaos manager. No, 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 she snapped. I don't care what the owner says. These people can't afford this place. I said premium lighting, not whatever's on sale at Home Depot. Her laugh was sharp enough to shave glass. Behind her sat my sister-in-law, Megan, looking like a sad Pinterest board. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, but eyes wide with panic. She twisted a napkin in her hands like it had personally betrayed her. I approached it with my best, harmless relative smile. Hey there, I said. Bella turned, scanning my outfit. Dark jeans, rolled up sleeves, no designer labels, and I could practically see her filing me under financially irrelevant. And you are? She asked, already bored. The brother-in-law, I said easily. Oh, she said, lips curling. The budget committee? I laughed. That's one way to put it. Listen, sweetheart, she said, waving her manicured hand. Why don't you let the adults handle this? Maybe grab yourself a latte or something. They have a vending machine in the staff lounge. Now, normally I'd fire back with a sarcastic comment, but I decided to save the ammo. Let her think I was just another overworked, underpaid relative trying to keep the wedding affordable. Sure thing, I said, smiling. Wouldn't want to get in the way of excellence. Her phone rang again, and she spun away, muttering something about new money disasters under her breath. Megan looked at me helplessly. Ryan, I'm so sorry, she whispered. She's just stressed. The owner raised the fee out of nowhere, and Bella said she's trying to negotiate. Negotiate, I said? By insulting the people paying her? She said it's part of her process, Megan murmured. She's, intense. Intense? I repeated. Megan, she's 2 insults away from summoning a lawsuit. Right on cue, Marcus Daniels, my head of operations and personal executioner of nonsense, appeared in the doorway like a Bond villain who'd just left a board meeting. Perfect suit, unreadable expression, the human embodiment of, I don't have time for amateurs. Bella spotted him and immediately switched gears. Finally, she said dramatically, lowering her voice to a silky, fake polite tone. You must be management. Maybe you can talk some sense into the family. They're refusing to pay the new invoice, and honestly, it's getting embarrassing. Marcus's expression didn't even flicker. Ms. Cruz, he said in that smooth, professional baritone of his, the owner would like to meet with everyone involved in Saturday's wedding, this afternoon. Bella blinked, clearly thrown off. Oh, she said, composing herself. Perfect. Maybe he'll finally understand that quality costs money. I'm sure he will, Marcus said dryly. He's requested your presence at 3 sharp. Bring any documentation you've adjusted, so he can review it personally. Bella's jaw twitched, but she smirked through it. Of course. I'd be happy to educate him on industry standards. Excellent, Marcus said. He's very interested in your methods. The tension in the room could have curdled milk. Megan glanced between them like she was watching a tennis match. I decided to throw in my own serve. So, Ms. Cruz, I said casually, what exactly is in this 50 grand upgrade? The lighting, security, unicorn valet service? She looked at me like I'd just farted in a cathedral. You wouldn't understand, she said sweetly. It's about ambiance, experience. You can't put a price on perfection. You literally just did, I said. It's $50,000. Her nostrils flared. Sir, this venue attracts a certain caliber of clientele. People who appreciate refinement, luxury, and free insults, I added. Because I gotta say, you're generous with those. Her phone buzzed again, saving her from responding. Excuse me, she said briskly, stalking off toward the courtyard. The minute she disappeared, Megan exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. I'm so sorry, Ryan. She's been like this for days. I told her I didn't need the upgraded package, but she said it would make me look cheap. Cheap? I said. Megan, you're literally paying for a wedding on a property that costs more than a small nation. The only cheap thing here is her attitude. Marcus glanced at me, his expression as flat as ever, but I could see the smirk hiding behind it. You want me to escort her to the meeting later? He asked. Oh, definitely, I said. And make sure the conference room's ready. I want the lights dimmed. Dramatic, but not creepy. Maybe some jazz in the background. I want her to feel like she's walking into a corporate firing squad with ambiance. Understood, he said, tapping his phone to make arrangements. Should I prepare refreshments? Sure, I said. Something classy, water for everyone, no sparkling. Bella strikes me as the type to choke on bubbles. Megan let out a startled laugh. Ryan, you're terrible. And yet effective, I said. Now don't worry about anything. You just focus on picking the right flowers and pretending you like your future in-laws. Leave the rest to me. You're not going to cause a scene, are you? She asked nervously. Scene? No. A lesson? Absolutely. I spent the next half hour wandering through the estate, reacquainting myself with every corner of my own property. It felt almost nostalgic. The marble columns, the grand staircase, the ballroom that could host 200 people without feeling crowded. All of it had been my project, my pride. And I'd spent months overseeing renovations, making sure every chandelier hung exactly right, every inch screamed elegance. Seeing Bella act like she owned the place was the comedic cherry on top. In the dining hall, I overheard her berating a staff member. When I say I want imported peonies, I mean imported, not that supermarket nonsense. If I wanted discount flowers, I'd go to... She stopped mid-sentence when she noticed me watching. Can I help you? She asked sharply. No, I said pleasantly. I'm just admiring how well you motivate people through fear and condescension. It's inspiring. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? She demanded. Oh, I do, I said. A woman about to have a really bad afternoon. Excuse me? Never mind, I said, smiling. See you at 3. By the time I left the hall, Marcus was waiting by the front entrance, his phone in hand. Everything's arranged, he said. Conference room ready, legal documents printed, Bella confirmed. Excellent, I said. Did you include the audio logs from her calls? Naturally. He hesitated. You sure you want to handle this personally, sir? I can easily terminate her contract without the theatrics. And deprive myself of this experience? I said, absolutely not. You ever watch a magician saw someone in half? It's not the trick. It's the look on their face when they realize the blade's real. Understood, Marcus said, deadpan. We stepped outside for a moment, the afternoon sun gleaming over the estate. Staff moved quietly between buildings, prepping for the weekend wedding. I could hear the faint hum of generators powering the outdoor lights, the same ones Bella was trying to overcharge us for. The irony almost made me emotional. I looked around and thought about how surreal it was that no one here knew I was the man behind all of it. The landscaping team thought I was a relative. The catering crew probably assumed I was broke. It was perfect. At 2:55, I walked back toward the main office, heart thumping with the kind of anticipation you only get before delivering corporate karma. Bella was already waiting outside, scrolling through her phone and looking irritated, probably drafting another overpriced invoice. Marcus stood beside her, polite but distant. She didn't even glance at me when I passed. She just sniffed like she'd caught the scent of middle class. I smirked to myself. Let her enjoy these last few minutes of blissful ignorance. Marcus opened the door to the office and gestured grandly. Ms. Cruz, he said, the owner will see you now. Finally, she said, swishing her designer scarf like she was walking into a Vogue cover shoot. Maybe he'll appreciate professionalism when he sees it. Oh, Marcus said, stepping aside. I'm sure he will. I lingered in the hallway just long enough to hear the door close behind her. This was it. The calm before the chaos, the perfect setup to a reveal 3 months in the making. I took a deep breath, adjusted my cufflinks, and thought, all right, Ryan. Time to go remind the universe why underestimation is your favorite currency. With that, I pushed open the door, my civic keys still in my pocket, my smirk already locked and loaded. Showtime had officially begun. There are moments in life when the universe hands you a stage and dares you to perform. This was one of those moments. The conference room inside the Grand Horizon Estate looked like it had been designed by someone who thought subtle luxury meant gold leaf everything. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the gardens outside, the sunlight bouncing off the marble floors so dramatically it felt like I was walking into a cologne commercial. Bella Cruz was already seated at the head of the table, her tablet open, her posture screaming self-importance. Her designer blazer sparkled under the light, sequins because of course it did, and her face carried that tight, polite smile of someone who thought she was about to make money, not memories. Marcus sat across from her, calm, as always, flipping through a folder like a man reviewing a grocery list instead of an impending career assassination. Megan sat near the end of the table, looking nervous enough to faint. Laura sat beside her, still unsure why her husband had insisted on attending a meeting that clearly involved the mysterious owner. I walked in quietly, unnoticed at first, and stood near the doorway. The irony of seeing everyone waiting for me was almost too delicious to rush. Bella crossed her legs, tapping her pen like a metronome. Let's make this quick, she said. I have real clients waiting for me this evening. People who actually value quality service. I'm sure you do, Marcus said evenly. The owner will be here shortly. He's eager to discuss the new charges you've proposed. Of course he is, she said, smirking. They always are. He'll come around once he realizes I don't do mediocrity. Laura shot Megan a sideways glance that said, Is she for real? Megan whispered something back, but it was drowned out by the sound of the door opening behind them. Sorry to keep everyone waiting, I said, stepping in. Every head turned. Marcus straightened slightly, suppressing a grin. Laura blinked twice, trying to place what she was seeing. Megan froze halfway through standing up, and Bella. Oh, Bella. Her expression was priceless. Her smile evaporated like sugar in boiling water. You? She squeaked. Me, I said pleasantly, walking to the head of the table and setting my coffee cup down with theatrical care. Ryan Lawson, owner and CEO of Lawson Estates Group. I believe we spoke this morning. The silence that followed was art. Bella's eyes darted between Marcus and me, like she was hoping this was a prank. I don't understand, she stammered. You drive a Civic. Exactly. Nuts, I said, smiling. Paid off, 300,000 miles, gets me where I need to go. You should try it sometime. Keeps your ego humble. You own Grand Horizon? Among a few others, I said, casually adjusting my cufflinks. But don't worry, you're not the first person to underestimate me. It's kind of a hobby around here. Laura's jaw dropped. Ryan, she said slowly, you own this place? For about 3 years now, I said. Bought it when the previous owner decided cryptocurrency was the future of event planning. Megan's hands flew to her mouth. You're kidding. I don't kid, I said. Unless someone charges me 50 grand for mood lighting, then I kid a lot. Marcus, professional as ever, slid a thick file toward me. All relevant documentation, sir. Thanks, Marcus, I said, flipping it open. Bella's name was plastered across half a dozen invoices, each one more ridiculous than the last. Let's see, 50,000 for lighting, 10 for floral ambience calibration, whatever that means, and another 5 for exclusive vendor management. I looked up. Ms. Cruz, do you often charge people for oxygen too, or is that a premium service? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Those are standard industry standards, I interrupted, that don't apply to my company. You see, you're talking to the guy who literally signs your checks. Well, used to. Laura leaned toward me, whispering, You've been letting her talk to everyone like this all week? Apparently, I said. But don't worry, that ends today. Turning back to Bella, I smiled. So, here's what we're going to do. You're going to explain to all of us, in plain English, what this extra 50,000 covers. And then, if it sounds legitimate, I might consider not laughing. Bella straightened, her voice shaky but defiant. Mr. Lawson, I don't appreciate being ambushed. I was told this was a professional consultation, not an interrogation. Oh, it's definitely professional, I said. You're the one who forgot the professionalism part. She glared at me. You can't speak to me like that. Actually, I can, I said cheerfully. I own the building, the brand, the lighting you overcharged for, and probably the chair you're sitting in. But hey, I'm a fair guy. Explain the upcharge. She fumbled with her tablet, pulling up charts that looked impressive until you realized they were just color-coded nonsense. The lighting package includes imported fixtures from Italy, she said quickly. Each chandelier is handcrafted. I own the lighting company, I said. Try again. The security upgrade ensures guest safety through enhanced coordination. Also mine, I said. We handle all security contracts internally. Her confidence was crumbling fast, her words tripping over each other. Well, the floral imports? Yep, I said, cutting her off. Bought that business last year. The color drained from her face. I wasn't aware. No, you weren't, I said. Because you didn't bother to check who you were talking to. You just saw a family, assumed they were desperate to keep up appearances, and decided to pad your paycheck with some creative accounting. I leaned forward. How long have you been doing this, Bella? How many families have you made feel beneath you while overbilling them? She stuttered something unintelligible. Marcus, ever efficient, tapped his tablet and played a recording. Bella's own voice echoed through the room. Desperate families always pay premium prices. It's not manipulation, it's market adaptation. The silence afterward was so thick you could have buttered it. Laura's eyebrows shot up to her hairline. Megan looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Bella's face turned a color that can only be described as expired shrimp. You said what now? Laura asked, her tone caught in between disbelief and fury. Bella's eyes darted around, desperate for an escape route. That was taken out of context, she sputtered. I was, joking. Really? I said, because you didn't sound like you were kidding when you tried to scam my in-laws out of 50 grand. But hey, maybe I'm missing the punchline. Marcus leaned back, crossing his arms. Should I notify legal? He asked. Bella shot up from her chair. Wait, there's no need for that. I can fix this. Oh, you already did, I said. You fixed your career right into early retirement. Laura pressed her hand to her forehead, torn between laughter and horror. Ryan, you can't just fire her in front of everyone. Sure I can, I said. It's called accountability. Plus, it's good for morale. Megan, bless her heart, stood up then, her voice shaky but strong. You made me feel like I didn't belong here, she told Bella. You told me my dress was cheap chic. You made my mom cry when you said her color choices were provincial. You even told my fiancé he should consider a smaller ring because flashy isn't flattering. It's called constructive criticism, Bella protested. It's called arrogance, I corrected. For a moment, no one said anything. Bella stood there trembling, realizing the full weight of her mistake. I gave Marcus a nod. Escort her out, please. Make sure she returns her keys and security pass. And for the love of all things decent, cancel any future bookings under her name. Marcus rose smoothly, gesturing toward the door. Ms. Cruz. She hesitated, glaring at me, with what little dignity she had left. You'll regret this, she said. I have influence. People listen to me. Yeah, I said, leaning back with a grin. Until you start talking. The sound of her heels, clicking down the hallway, was pure symphony. When the door closed behind her, I turned to Laura and Megan, who were both staring at me like they weren't sure whether to hug me or question my sanity. Well, I said, dusting off my hands. That was productive. Megan blinked. You owned this place the whole time? For 3 years, I said. I didn't tell anyone because I wanted you to pick it because you loved it, not because of me. You're unbelievable, Laura said, shaking her head. I prefer mysterious billionaire, I replied. Marcus smirked, gathering the documents. I'll have HR send out a formal notice to all vendors. We'll need to replace her immediately. Already ahead of you, I said. Call Carmen Vega. She's professional, kind, and most importantly, doesn't treat clients like peasants. Consider it done. As the meeting ended, Laura squeezed my hand, still half in disbelief. You really did all this? For Megan? For you, I said simply. Your family might drive me insane sometimes, but they're yours, which makes them mine. She smiled, leaning close. You know, you could have just told me. Where's the fun in that? I grinned. Marcus held the door open as we stepped into the hallway. Nicely handled, sir, he said. Always satisfying watching arrogance implode. That's what I call Tuesday therapy, I said. Come on, Marcus. Let's make sure the new planner knows not to overcharge for light bulbs. As we wommacked out, the last traces of Bella's perfume still lingered. A mix of desperation and designer vanity. The staff glanced at me curiously, finally realizing the guy in the old Civic wasn't just another +1. And honestly, that was the best part. The look on their faces when they realized the budget brother-in-law owned the palace they worked in. Priceless. I slid my hands into my pockets, humming to myself. The show was over, the truth revealed. And for once, the villain's downfall had perfect lighting. There's a special kind of silence that fills a room after someone realizes they've just detonated their own career in front of their boss, his wife, and half a witness stand of family members. That was the silence sitting heavy in the air as I leaned back in my chair, watching Bella Cruz try to piece together what was left of her dignity. She looked like someone who'd accidentally stepped on a Lego barefoot and was trying not to scream. The room still smelled faintly of her floral perfume, a mix of desperation and overpriced ambition. Marcus stood beside me, tablet in hand, wearing the neutral expression of a man who'd seen this movie before and was just waiting for the credits. Laura sat next to Megan, both of them silent but wide-eyed, like spectators at a courtroom drama they hadn't bought tickets for. So, I said finally, tapping the contract on the desk with the kind of slow, deliberate rhythm that could make even confident people sweat. Let's talk about this mysterious $50,000 upcharge, because I don't know about you, but I'd love to hear the director's cut of this scam. Bella blinked rapidly, trying to steady herself. It's not a scam, she said, her voice cracking halfway through the sentence. It's a premium service. My clients expect excellence, and excellence costs money. Right, I said, nodding. Excellence, that's one word for daylight robbery. I slid the contract closer to me, flipping through pages that were more padded than a toddler's playroom. Let's start simple. Enhanced lighting package. You charged $50,000 for that. What exactly are we illuminating here? The second coming? Bella hesitated. Lighting is crucial for ambience. Imported fixtures from Italy. Owned by me, I interrupted. Lawson Lighting Company. Subsidiary of Lawson Estates Group. So technically, you just tried to charge me for my own products. Impressive. Her eyes widened, but I didn't let her speak. Next, enhanced security coverage. Sounds fancy. What's that include? Guards made of diamonds? It's about ensuring guest safety and coordination with local law enforcement. Also handled internally, I said. Lawson Security Services. Bought it last year when someone thought it'd be clever to inflate prices on exclusive coverage packages. She fumbled with her tablet. Floral imports, she blurted out. We ordered rare blooms. From Petal and Vine, yes? I asked. Guess what, Bella? Also mine. Acquired in May. You're batting 3 for 3 here. You've successfully tried to extort me with my own subsidiaries. That's not ambition. That's performance art. Laura's mouth dropped open. Wait, you own a floral company too? I do now, I said casually, and needed to diversify. Weddings seem safer than crypto. You're unbelievable, she muttered. That's been said before, I said, turning back to Bella, who looked like she wanted to sink into the marble floor. So, what's next? Want to tell me about the vendor management fee? Because from where I'm sitting, the only thing you've managed is the rapid decline of your professional reputation. Marcus slid a transcript across the desk, as calm as a man ordering coffee. For your reference, sir. I hit play on the audio file, and Bella's own voice filled the room, crisp and confident. Desperate families always pay premium prices. It's not exploitation, it's strategy. The sound was sharp enough to slice the air. Megan gasped, clapping a hand over her mouth. Laura's jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing into the kind of glare that could curdle milk. I paused the recording right as Bella's voice hit the word desperate. The silence afterward was surgical. You said what now? Laura asked softly, her tone polite enough to scare small children. Bella scrambled for words. That was taken out of context. I was joking with a colleague. It's banter. You must be a riot at comedy clubs, I said. Unfortunately, your jokes cost people their savings accounts. She turned desperate. Look, I can fix this, okay? I'll waive the extra fee. I'll give a discount. You don't get it, I said, leaning forward. It's not about the money anymore. It's about principle. You insulted my family, lied to my staff, and tried to overcharge the owner of the property. You hit the corporate humiliation trifecta. Congratulations. Bella's hands trembled as she fiddled with her tablet. You can't just... Oh, but I can, I interrupted. That's the beauty of owning the place. I get to decide who works here, and right now, you're making a compelling case for unemployment. Marcus stepped in, his voice calm and measured. Ms. Cruz will need your vendor credentials, passcodes, and estate access keys returned immediately. Your accounts will be locked within the hour. This is absurd, Bella snapped. Do you know who I am? Do you? I asked. Because the person in that recording doesn't sound like someone who belongs in this business. She sounds like a headline waiting to happen. She turned to Megan in one last pathetic attempt at redemption. Sweetheart, please. Don't let him ruin your wedding over this misunderstanding. Megan stood up slowly, her hands shaking, but her voice surprisingly steady. You already ruined it, she said. You made me feel small. You mocked my choices. You told me my wedding wasn't good enough because I wasn't rich enough. Do you have any idea how that felt? Bella's lip quivered. I was just trying to elevate your vision. You were trying to elevate your paycheck, I said. Big difference. Marcus moved closer to the door, gesturing for Bella to leave. Ms. Cruz, your termination is effective immediately. You'll regret this, she hissed. I have influence in this industry. People talk to me. Not for long, I said. You'll still be in the industry, sure. Probably as a cautionary tale. Her stilettos clicked furiously as she stormed out, muttering something about lawyers and ungrateful clients. The door shut behind her with a satisfying thud that echoed like a period at the end of a very expensive sentence. The moment she was gone, the tension in the room collapsed like a souffle in a thunderstorm. Laura exhaled, shaking her head. You really owned this place the whole time? For 3 years, I said, standing up and stretching. I didn't tell anyone because I wanted Megan to pick it for the right reasons, and because if your mom knew, she'd have turned the guest list into a shareholder report. You're insane, she said, half laughing, half scolding. I prefer strategically unhinged, I said. Megan stood and gave me a shaky smile. Thank you, Ryan. I can't believe she actually said those things about us. Oh, I can believe it, I said. Some people see kindness as weakness. I just prefer to let them find out the hard way that it's not. Marcus began packing up the documents. I'll coordinate with HR to transfer her bookings to a new planner. Do you have someone in mind, sir? Call Carmen Vega, I said immediately. She's excellent, straightforward, and doesn't treat clients like they're contestants on a game show. Already on it, he said. As Marcus exited the room, Laura walked over and poked me in the chest. You could have told me, about owning all this, and missed the look on Bella's face when she realized she'd tried to scam her own boss. I grinned. That was Oscar-worthy. You're impossible, she said, though I could see the smile tugging at the corner of her lips. You love me anyway, I said. Unfortunately, she replied, rolling her eyes. Megan laughed for the first time that day, relief washing over her. She said, Mom's gonna lose her mind when she finds out you own this place. Which is exactly why you're not telling her, I said. Let her enjoy thinking she's the one who secured this venue through her connections. Oh, it's good for her blood pressure. You're ridiculous, Laura said, shaking her head. Rich and ridiculous, I corrected. It's part of the brand. Marcus re-entered with a slight smile. Carmen's confirmed. She'll take over the event immediately. Says she'll waive all unnecessary charges and will personally oversee the final preparations. See, I said, that's what happens when you work with people who actually have integrity. Megan sighed in relief. You seriously saved the day, Ryan. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, I said. Just promise me the open bar doesn't run out of bourbon. Deal, she laughed. As the group dispersed, I lingered in the office for a moment, staring out the window at the sprawling gardens. Workers were moving chairs, setting up floral arches, humming quietly to themselves. The estate had never looked better, and the irony wasn't lost on me that the very place Bella tried to exploit would now host a wedding built on honesty instead of manipulation. Laura slipped her hand into mine. You could have handled that privately, she teased. I could have, I said, but where's the fun in that? Some lessons hit harder with an audience. You're impossible, she repeated. And yet strangely irresistible, I said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. Come on, let's go tell Megan her new planner's not a sociopath. As we left the office, Marcus trailed behind, his phone already buzzing with vendor confirmations. He said, if you ever get tired of running an empire, you'd make a hell of a lawyer. Nah, I said, too many rules, and I prefer my justice with a bit of flair. We stepped outside into the afternoon sun, and for a moment, everything felt still. Bella was gone, the estate was calm, and my family finally saw a glimpse of the man I was when no one was watching. The one who didn't just build things, but protected them. And as I looked across the estate, I couldn't help but grin. Maybe Tuesdays weren't so bad after all. There are firings, and then there are performances. Bella Cruz's meltdown at the Grand Horizon estate was the kind of thing that deserved a director's commentary and popcorn refills. If humiliation had a 4K resolution, this was it. After she stormed out, Marcus and I lingered in the conference room, going over the paperwork that officially ended her contract. The woman had a talent for drama. I'll give her that. The echo of her heels on the marble floors sounded like a slow clap from karma itself. I half expected a choir of angels to start singing Hallelujah in surround sound. Laura sat beside me, half in awe, half in shock. Megan was still blinking like she was watching a magic trick and trying to figure out where the rabbit went. Ryan, Laura said carefully, and you didn't just fire her, you vaporized her. I prefer the term professionally relocated, I said, leaning back in my chair, to the unemployment line. You do realize, Laura said, raising an eyebrow, that she's probably going to post about this online, right? She looks like the kind of woman who has Yelp bookmarked under revenge. Good, I said. I could use the free marketing. Owner publicly fires arrogant planner. People will eat that up. Nothing sells like justice. Marcus, still calm as ever, slid the termination documents across the table for me to sign. Everything's in order, sir. HR has already deactivated her access credentials. Her company email has been archived. Efficient, as always, I said. I'd promote you, but then who would keep me humble? He allowed the faintest smirk. I think your civic does that, sir. You wound me, Marcus, I said. As I signed the papers, Megan stood up, her voice trembling but firm. She said, looking toward the door Bella had stormed through. I spent weeks thinking I wasn't classy enough for this wedding. She told me I should tone down my dress choice and that our family wasn't really Horizon material. She even said my mom's taste was outdated. Laura groaned. God, I knew she was bad, but that's next level. Yeah, I said. She's got the subtlety of a tax audit. Megan glanced at me. You really didn't have to step in, Ryan. You already did so much for us. I smiled. Megan, I've been part of this family long enough to know that when one person disrespects one of you, it's basically an invitation for me to turn it into a full-scale corporate event. Laura elbowed me gently. Translation. He enjoys this too much. Justice is my cardio, I said. Marcus cleared his throat. If I may, sir, we'll need to contact the vendors she contracted under false terms. Several payments were misallocated. Misallocated, I asked, or laundered through her ego? A little of both, he replied. Shall I handle it? Absolutely, I said. Oh, and Marcus, send her a parting gift, a fruit basket. Include a note. You were overripe for this job. He didn't laugh, but his eyebrow twitched. Noted, sir. Laura stood, shaking her head. You are incorrigible, and yet, I said, standing beside her, you married me, which says more about your taste than mine. She smiled despite herself. You know, I should be mad that you hid this from me, but I can't decide if I'm more shocked or turned on. Why not both? I grinned. Before we could leave, Marcus's phone buzzed. Sir, he said, glancing at it, security reports Ms. Cruz is attempting to leave the premises with several unauthorized items. Branded tablets, access cards, and a company laptop. I blinked. Of course she is. Because what's a villain without one last petty theft attempt? I turned to Laura. You want to come watch? You're impossible, she said, laughing. But yes, my age, obviously. We followed Marcus through the halls like we were walking to a live episode of Corporate Cops. Sure enough, near the lobby, Bella was arguing with a security guard, clutching a tote bag that looked suspiciously overstuffed. You can't just accuse me of stealing, she barked. These are my personal items. Marcus stepped forward. Your personal items are company property? He asked dryly. Because that's the estate's logo on the laptop sticking out of your bag. That's mine, she snapped. It has my notes. Then I hope you backed them up, I said, stepping into view. Her face went through the 5 stages of grief in under 3 seconds. You again? Still me, I said, persistent like karma. She turned to Laura, desperate. You can't let him do this. He's ruining my career. Laura folded her arms. You did that yourself. Please, Bella said, lowering her tone. I can make this right. I can offer a 20% discount. Wow, I said. From fraud to clearance rack, impressive range. Security gently took the bag from her and started cataloging the contents. Every time they pulled out another item with the company logo, Bella's voice went up an octave. This is outrageous. You'll regret this, Ryan Lawson. Oh, I already do, I said, mostly because I'll have to explain this to HR, and they hate paperwork. As she was escorted out, she muttered something about blacklisting me from the wedding industry. I couldn't resist. Bella, sweetheart, I called after her. I own half the venues you'd try to blacklist me from, but hey, maybe the community center has an opening. She spun around, red-faced. You think this is funny? Only because it's poetic, I said. When the doors finally closed behind her, the staff burst into a spontaneous, hushed round of applause. Marcus pretended not to notice, but his lips twitched in amusement. Laura just shook her head. You're a menace to scammers everywhere, I said proudly. We returned to my office where Marcus handed me a folder of incident reports. Everything's been documented, he said, and the vendors have already been notified. Carmen Vega is en route to take over coordination. Excellent, I said. Tell her to bring tequila. We've earned it. Megan reappeared a few minutes later, visibly calmer. Carmen just called me, she said. She's wonderful, so polite. She said she's waiving all additional fees and wants to make the wedding stress-free and magical. See, I said, but grinning. Told you I had it under control. Laura shot me a look. You call public humiliation under control? Controlled chaos, I corrected. Big difference. As Marcus left to handle the follow-ups, Laura leaned against the desk. You know, my mom's going to ask how this got fixed. What exactly do you want me to tell her? Tell her the owner personally handled it, I said with a straight face. You're the owner. Exactly. Laura groaned. You are not telling my mom you own this estate. She'll redecorate the place in floral wallpaper by Sunday. That's why I'm telling you to tell her, I said, smirking. Delegation. It's what good leaders do. Unbelievable, she said, but she was smiling. You're impossible. And yet, I said, so effective. That night, I stayed late in the office, finishing the paperwork while the sun set over the hills. The estate's lights flickered on outside, those same lights Bella tried to charge us 50 grand for. The irony wasn't lost on me. I walked to the window, coffee in hand, watching the reflection of the chandeliers glow in the glass. I couldn't help but chuckle. You really outdid yourself this time, Ryan, I muttered. Around 8, Marcus returned with a tired smile. All vendors confirmed, sir. Ms. Cruz's files have been transferred. Security escorted her from the property without further incident. Perfect, I said. Tell the staff drinks are on me tonight. Shall I use the corporate card? He asked, deadpan. Obviously, I said. Wouldn't want to look cheap. As he left, Laura slipped back into the room, holding 2 glasses of wine. For the hero of the hour, she said, handing one to me. I'm more of an anti-hero, I said, taking it. Still counts, she said. We clinked glasses. So what happens now? She asked. Now? I said. Now we let the dust settle. Megan gets her dream wedding. Your mom gets to brag. And I get to enjoy watching everyone pretend they never doubted me. She smiled, leaning against me. You really love that, don't you? Being underestimated? It's my favorite hobby, I said. Nothing beats the moment when people realize the budget husband owns the building they're standing in. You're ridiculous, she said. Rich and ridiculous, I corrected. Outside, the night air shimmered against the estate lights. Staff were setting up for the rehearsal dinner, laughter floating up from the courtyard. For the first time in days, everything felt calm again. The chaos was over, the fraud had been purged, and tomorrow would be beautiful. I looked down at my Civic parked between 2 luxury sedans and grinned. Some men flex with cars. I flex with irony. As I turned back to Laura, I raised my glass. To justice served cold. To Megan's sanity, she added. And to my wife, I said, for marrying a man who turns business meetings into live theater. She laughed softly. I should have charged admission. Next time, I said. There's always next time. And as the laughter filled the room, I knew one thing for sure. Bella's downfall was just the trailer. The real show, the wedding itself, was coming next. And oh, was it going to be worth every penny I didn't spend. There's something oddly therapeutic about watching chaos dissolve into calm. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight bleeding through our curtains. The kind of golden glow that almost tricks you into believing life's perfect. Laura was already up, sitting cross-legged on the bed with her laptop open and her hair tied up in that messy bun she swears is functional. But I'm convinced she does it just to test my self-control. She looked up the moment I groaned myself awake. You're trending, she said flatly. Good morning to you too, I muttered. Trending where? Please don't say Twitter. I can't survive another week of people calling me Budget Bezos. Instagram, she said, spinning the laptop toward me. Sure enough, there it was, had wedding planner meltdown. Someone from the Grand Horizon staff had caught the tail end of Bella's dramatic exit, complete with her yelling, "You'll regret this," and me replying, "Only the paperwork." The caption read, "When the boss fires a scammer and still has time to finish his coffee, I rub my temples." Marcus must be losing his mind. He's actually loving it, Laura said, scrolling. There's even a meme of you. Look, when your Civic has more power than her BM. I squinted. That's disturbingly accurate. Ryan, you humiliated a con artist and went viral. The internet thinks you're a hero. That's because the internet doesn't know how expensive lawsuits are, I said. Speaking of which, any angry emails yet? Just one, she said, from my mom. Subject line, why didn't you tell me our son-in-law is secretly rich? Ah, I said, the day has begun. After breakfast, which was really just me inhaling burnt toast while Laura reminded me not to gloat too much, we drove to the estate to finalize the new arrangements with Carmen Vega. I'd worked with Carmen before. She was the anti-Bella, calm, polite, organized, and so allergic to drama she could probably break out in hives if someone raised their voice. When we pulled into the parking lot, I spotted her waiting near the entrance, clipboard in hand, dressed in neutral tones that said, "I'm here to fix your life, not destroy it." Mr. Lawson, she greeted, shaking my hand with the kind of professionalism that made me want to give her a raise on the spot. Thank you for bringing me in. I've already reviewed the event files and removed all unnecessary add-ons, which, I assume, was about 90% of the previous budget. I asked. She smiled. 92. She was charging extra for things already included in the venue package, like climate-controlled comfort. I blinked. Air conditioning? She charged extra for air? And Wi-Fi, Carmen added. Premium connection. I stared at her for a beat. You know what? I take back everything I ever said about exaggeration being a dying art. Laura laughed softly, clearly relieved that someone competent was finally in charge. Megan and her fiancé, Adam, arrived a few minutes later looking like new humans. Megan hugged Carmen like she was a long-lost sister. Thank you for saving my wedding, she said, practically glowing. Oh, honey, Carmen replied warmly. I didn't save it, I just dusted it off. You already had everything you needed. If Bella's voice was a migraine, Carmen's was chamomile tea. Even I felt myself relaxing. Once logistics were handled, we sat down in the estate lounge, a sprawling room with big windows, plush couches, and a view of the gardens that could make you forget your in-laws existed. Carmen went over the final costs, which, shockingly, were less than half of what Bella had quoted. Wait, Laura said. That's it? That's it, Carmen said. The original estimate was inflated beyond reason. You're actually getting a refund. Megan gasped. A refund? Those exist? Apparently, when you're not being robbed, I said, grinning. Carmen chuckled and closed her clipboard. I'll have my assistant deliver the revised invoice later today. And just so you know, the staff adored your speech yesterday, Mr. Lawson. You've got a bit of a legend status now. Fantastic, I said. Can I trade that legend status for a quiet week? Not a chance, Laura said. My mom already printed screenshots. After Carmen left, we lingered around the estate, and I could feel Laura's eyes on me, curious, thoughtful. You really owned this place the whole time? She asked again, shaking her head. 3 years, I said. Bought it right after Megan got engaged. I figured she'd pick it one day. Why didn't you say anything? Because I wanted her to love it for what it was, not for who owned it. And because if your mom knew, she'd have started holding brunches here every weekend. Laura laughed. Fair point. She already acts like she founded Starbucks because she knows the barista's name. We walked through the gardens, and I couldn't help but feel proud. Every corner of this estate was something I'd built quietly while everyone assumed I was just Laura's handy husband with a decent job. There was a weird freedom in being underestimated. People showed you who they really were when they thought you couldn't affect their lives. Bella had been Exhibit A. As we reached the courtyard, one of the servers approached nervously. Mr. Lawson, we just wanted to thank you, she said. Most bosses would have just fired her quietly, but you stood up for us too. For you? I asked. She was charging us to breathe the same air as her, she said. She yelled at me for serving appetizers too enthusiastically. Well, I said, next time someone pulls that, serve them a personality check instead. She laughed. Thank you, sir. Really. She walked off and I turned to Laura, who was watching me with that look, the one halfway between admiration and you're in trouble later. Don't say it, I said. Say what? She asked innocently. That you're impressed. Oh, I am, she said, but also mildly terrified. You're like if Karma wore cologne and owned property. I'll take that, I said. We stayed at the estate until the afternoon, going over last-minute wedding details. The staff had swapped tension for excitement, and the air actually felt lighter. Even Megan seemed to float as she picked her floral arrangements. When she wasn't looking, Laura leaned in and whispered, You know, I think I owe you an apology. For what? I asked. For thinking you were just being your usual sarcastic self yesterday. I didn't realize you were pulling off a full-scale coup. Sweetheart, I said. Sarcasm is my leadership style. She smirked. Do you realize how crazy it is that you own this estate, multiple companies, and still show up to family dinners in that beat-up Civic? Of course, I said. That's the fun part. No one suspects the guy with bad cup holders. You're unbelievable, she said. And yet, I said, slipping an arm around her shoulders. Still yours. By the time evening rolled around, we ended up at the estate bar, a sleek, modern space with glass walls and enough liquor to drown out anyone's problems. Carmen joined us for a quick drink to celebrate a crisis well handled. She ordered a margarita. Laura went for white wine. I naturally ordered tequila straight up because I felt like I'd earned it. To surviving another episode of Weddings Gone Wild, I said, raising my glass. To honesty, Carmen said. And to clients who don't scream into their Bluetooth headsets, Laura added. We laughed, and for the first time all week, the tension melted. The tequila burned pleasantly down my throat, sharp and clean, the kind that made you forget people once tried to overcharge you for lighting fixtures. You know, Laura said after her second sip, you could have told me about the refund before the tequila. And ruin the fun, I said. No. Financial victories should always be paired with alcohol. Carmen excused herself after a while, leaving Laura and me alone. The night outside was calm, the estate lights glowing like stars that got tired of the sky. Laura leaned her head on my shoulder. You really do this, huh? She said softly. What's that? Fix things, quietly, dramatically, sarcastically. All part of the package, I said. Comes with free Wi-Fi and questionable humor. She laughed, the sound warm and easy. You're ridiculous, and yet strangely effective, I said again. We sat there for a long moment, just listening to the music playing softly through the speakers. The bartender, who'd clearly witnessed yesterday's chaos, walked by and gave me a respectful nod. Mr. Lawson, he said, never seen anyone handle a situation like that before. You made it look smooth. Thank you, I said. That's tequila and moral superiority at work. When Laura finally stood, she stretched and smiled. You ready to go home, Mr. Secret Billionaire? After one more drink, I said, you realize you can't call yourself the underdog anymore, right? Sure I can, I said. It's my favorite disguise. She laughed and grabbed her purse. Fine, but tomorrow, when my mom asks about how this all worked out, I'm telling her you just knew a guy. Perfect, I said, because technically I do. We walked out of the bar into the cool night, hand in hand, the estate behind us humming with quiet elegance. The air smelled of roses and success, two things Bella Cruz would probably never experience again. I looked at Laura, smiling as she teased me about my car, and thought about how funny life could be. A day ago, I'd been just another in-law sponsor in her family's eyes. Now, I was the reason the wedding and the illusion of upper-class perfection was still intact. As we reached the parking lot, my Civic sat between two Teslas, unapologetically ordinary. I ran my hand over the hood affectionately. Still the most loyal ride here, I said. Laura rolled her eyes. You talk about that car like it's a person. It's been through every storm with me, I said. Can't say that about most people. You're impossible, she said. And you love me for it, I replied. When we finally drove off, the estate lights fading in the rearview mirror, I took one last look and smiled. The crisis was over, the wedding was saved, and balance was restored. Some men fought wars, others built empires. But me? I settled family drama with a well-timed reveal and a glass of tequila. And honestly, that might be my favorite kind of victory. Saturday dawned bright, obnoxiously cheerful, and far too early for my taste. The sun decided to turn the Grand Horizon Estate into a golden postcard, the kind people use to sell overpriced vacation packages. I stood on the balcony of my office suite, sipping coffee that tasted like power and petty satisfaction. Below me, the courtyard buzzed with activity. Carmen's team was everywhere, orchestrating what looked like a choreographed ballet of logistics. Chairs, flowers, catering carts, and sound checks all moved with military precision. The woman was a magician. Bella could have taken notes if she wasn't probably somewhere right now trying to convince LinkedIn she resigned to pursue passion projects. Laura appeared behind me, dressed in a satin robe, hair perfectly curled, sipping her own coffee like she hadn't spent the last 2 weeks stress-eating everything in our pantry. You look smug, she said. It's my resting expression, I replied. Besides, I think I earned a little smug today. The wedding's happening, the planner's competent, and no one's charging us extra for light bulbs. Small miracles, she said, smiling. You're really enjoying this, aren't you? Watching karma work in real time? Absolutely. It's my favorite sport. The staff was setting up the main archway, covered in white roses that Carmen somehow sourced locally. Because unlike Bella, she didn't need to ship flowers from a different time zone to prove she was classy. Megan's color palette actually came to life, soft pastels blending with the gold-trimmed decor, elegant but not loud. It screamed luxury without shouting, "Look at me." I watched as Megan and Adam practiced their walk down the aisle under Carmen's gentle coaching. Megan looked radiant, no longer the bundle of nerves she'd been a few days ago. Adam looked terrified, which was normal for a man about to make vows in front of both families. By noon, guests started arriving, their high-end cars lining the estate driveway like a luxury dealership's fever dream. Laura's parents showed up first, of course. Her mom, Diane, wore a hat so large it could block Wi-Fi signals, and her dad, Richard, looked proud and slightly sweaty, like a man who'd practiced his father of the bride smile in the mirror. I was downstairs by the time they reached the lobby. Diane spotted me instantly and, with that uncanny mother-in-law radar, zeroed in. "Ryan, there you are," she exclaimed, air-kissing both sides of my face like we were in a French soap opera. "Isn't this place magnificent? I can't believe Megan managed to secure it. Such connections." I almost choked on my drink. "Yeah, real insider magic there." "The owner must be very impressed," she continued. "You know, I told Megan to always aim for the best. I suppose my advice paid off." "Oh, it paid off," I said, "in ways you can't even imagine." "What's that, dear?" she asked. "Nothing," I said, smiling. "Just admiring the lighting. Really premium." Laura joined us before I could say something that would end up as family legend. "Mom, Dad, everything's perfect, isn't it?" Diane beamed. "Perfect! It's the wedding of the year." "It's Saturday," Richard muttered. "So far I've attended a breakfast buffet and tripped on cobblestone." "Richard," Diane hissed, "behave." I coughed to cover a laugh. "You two really bring the romance wherever you go." By the time the ceremony started, the place looked like heaven on a budget, except there was no budget. Carmen's team had delivered perfection, and the guests were too busy taking selfies to realize half the vendors had been replaced midweek. I took my seat near the front, next to Laura and across from her parents, feeling oddly sentimental. It wasn't often I got to sit back and watch chaos transform into something beautiful. The music started, gentle strings, none of that DJ remix of Canon in D nonsense Bella had tried to push. Megan appeared at the top of the steps, radiant in her gown. For a second, even Diane went quiet. Adam looked like he'd been hit by a truck full of emotions. Laura leaned in and whispered, "You did good." "We did good," I said. "You handled the family, I handled the fraud. That's teamwork." "You handled it with fire," she said. "Literal corporate fire." "It's the only language scammers understand," I whispered back. The vows were heartfelt, the speeches emotional, and the officiant managed to pronounce everyone's name correctly, a win in itself. By the time they were declared husband and wife, even Richard had tears in his eyes, though he tried to hide it behind a cough. The crowd erupted into applause, champagne corks popped, and a string quartet kicked off a melody that made everyone sway like they were in a perfume commercial. At the reception, I posted up near the buffet table, my natural habitat. The shrimp cocktail was incredible, which was poetic considering it was the same item Bella had overcharged me for. I picked one up, looked at Marcus, who'd arrived in an immaculate suit, clipboard in hand, and said, "Taste that? That's revenge seasoned with lemon." "I'm just glad the staff is happy again," Marcus said. "Carmen's already won them over." "Yeah," I said. "You know you've hired the right planner when no one looks like they wanted to fake an injury to escape." Laura floated between tables, chatting with relatives, while Diane and her friends clustered near the stage, gossiping loud enough to qualify as a podcast. I caught snippets like, "I heard the owner's a young visionary, and I think he's single." I grinned into my drink. "Should I tell them the owner's married to their daughter?" Marcus asked dryly. "Nah," I said. "Let them have their mystery fantasy. Keeps things spicy." Midway through dinner, Richard approached me, holding a glass of wine and wearing his proud dad face. "Ryan, my boy," he said, clapping my shoulder. "Heard what happened with that planner. Didn't realize you were the boss of the boss." "Yeah," I said. "I tend to keep my billions on mute." He chuckled nervously. "Well, I'm proud of you, son. You've always been reliable, and sorry if I ever doubted you. You've done this family proud." "No problem," I said. "I'll just deduct it from the 50 grand I didn't have to pay." He blinked, unsure whether to laugh or apologize again. "Right. Ha! You're a funny guy." "So, I've been told," I said, raising my glass. As the evening carried on, people started hitting the dance floor, and for once, no one looked stressed. The staff moved smoothly, Carmen hovered like a benevolent guardian angel, and the DJ, thankfully not Chad from Bella's recommendation list, had the crowd vibing without a single song from a car commercial. I watched from the sidelines, content, until Laura grabbed my hand and dragged me into the chaos. Oh, no, I said. We've discussed this. I don't dance. My body has a natural anti-rhythm setting. You do today, she said, pulling me in. Besides, what's the point of being secretly rich if you can't embarrass yourself in style? That's blackmail, I said, but I followed anyway. We danced like idiots, both laughing, and for the first time in forever, I didn't care who was watching. Even Marcus cracked a grin when he saw me trying to copy a move from TikTok for dads. Laura's mom filmed part of it, probably for future blackmail material, but I didn't mind. It felt like the perfect full circle moment. Chaos, laughter, and just enough tequila from the open bar to blur my self-awareness. Then, the night's best moment arrived. Carmen took the mic to give a short toast. To the bride and groom, she said warmly. And to the man who reminded us that kindness isn't weakness, it's power. Every eye turned to me. I nearly choked on my champagne. Laura smirked. Oh, look, she whispered. They're toasting you now. Fantastic, I muttered. That's not awkward at all. Carmen continued. Ryan Lawson, thank you for stepping in when things fell apart. You showed grace, humor, and integrity. And for that, we're all grateful. The crowd clapped, and I did the world's most awkward half bow. Well, I said into the mic Carmen handed me, I appreciate that, but let's not overdo it. I only did what any husband would do when a wedding planner tries to pull a heist. Laughter rolled through the crowd. Seriously, though, I added, glancing at Megan and Adam, you two deserve today. You remind the rest of us that love can survive even the worst lighting quotes. That got a bigger laugh. I raised my glass. To family, who drive us crazy but also keep us grounded. And to honesty, because apparently it's still a marketable skill. The rest of the night blurred into a montage of music, laughter, and unfiltered joy. I caught Marcus at one point nursing a whiskey at the bar, watching everyone with quiet satisfaction. So, I said, sliding next to him, did we just pull off the wedding of the year? Easily, I said. And your in-laws didn't even find out you owned the estate. That's the true miracle, I said. Let's keep it that way until Christmas. Then I'll casually drop it between gift exchanges. As the crowd thinned and the band packed up, Carmen approached with a warm smile. Everything went flawlessly, Mr. Lawson. No crises, no chaos. Beautiful, I said. I might actually sleep tonight. And you've got a fan club now, she said, gesturing toward a small group of staff members who waved at me. They call you the Calm Storm. That's terrifying, I said. I love it. Laura found me a few minutes later, heels in hand, eyes glowing with pride. You did it, she said softly. No disasters, no scandals, just perfect. Don't sound so surprised, I said, smirking. Maybe I'm changing. Please don't, she said. I like you exactly how you are. Sarcastic, unpredictable, secretly powerful. You forgot devastatingly handsome, I said. That too, she teased. We stood there under the soft lights watching Megan and Adam drive off into their happily ever after, the car trailing ribbons and laughter. The night air was cool, the estate quiet except for the faint hum of distant music. You know, Laura said, leaning against me, for someone who claims to hate weddings, you just saved one in spectacular fashion. What can I say? I said, grinning. I'm a sucker for dramatic reveals and poetic justice. She tilted her head up to kiss me, whispering, You really are something else, Ryan Lawson. I'll take that as a compliment, I said. It was, she said, mostly. As the last guest trickled out and the lights dimmed, I looked around the place one final time. Every chandelier sparkled like it knew a secret, and the marble floors gleamed with quiet satisfaction. I smiled to myself. Somewhere out there, Bella Cruz was probably updating her resume. Meanwhile, my family was dancing under the stars, oblivious to the fact that the man they once called the budget in-law had just funded, saved, and owned their dream day. Sweet karma indeed. By the time the last guest stumbled out and the music faded into the kind of soft hum that only comes after perfection, I was running purely on caffeine, adrenaline, and smug satisfaction. The Grand Horizon estate looked flawless. Candles still flickering, petals scattered like confetti, and not a single trace of Bella Cruz's chaos left behind. Carmen joined us in the kitchen, holding a bottle of champagne like a trophy. To the man who saved a wedding and ended a career before dessert, she said, raising her glass. I clinked mine against hers. To efficiency, I said, and to planners who don't bill me for air. Laura laughed beside me, handing me a small gift box. Inside was a framed photo from the ceremony, her, Megan, and me caught mid-laugh. "You made this day perfect," she said softly. "Nah," I said. "You guys did the hard part. I just owned the building." She rolled her eyes. "You're impossible. And charming," I added. As the staff started cleaning up, I wandered through the ballroom, watching the reflections dance across the marble. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Laura walked up behind me, slipping her arms around my waist. "You know," she said, resting her chin on my shoulder, "you could have told me you were secretly rich." "Where's the fun in that?" I asked. "I like watching people underestimate me. It's character building." "For them." "You're insufferable," she murmured, kissing my cheek. "That's what keeps life interesting," I said, smiling. When we finally left, I tossed the keys to Marcus. "Lock up, will you? Don't let Diane try to host brunch here tomorrow." He chuckled. "Already on it, sir." Laura and I walked out into the cool night, the soft hum of crickets blending with distant laughter. My Civic waited in the parking lot, parked neatly between two luxury cars that probably cost more than my first house. I opened the door, running a hand across the steering wheel. "See that?" I said. "Still the most reliable partner I've ever had." "You say that every time," Laura sighed, sliding into the passenger seat. "Because it's true," I said, grinning. "This baby doesn't ask for spa days or emotional check-ins." "You're going to die alone with that car," she muttered. "Maybe," I said, starting the engine, "but I'll die debt-free." As we drove off, the estate lights glimmered behind us, each one a reminder that power doesn't always need to scream. Sometimes it just hums quietly under the surface, waiting for the right moment to shine. Laura leaned her head on my shoulder. "So what happens now, Mr. Undercover Tycoon?" "Now?" I said. "Now we go home, eat leftover wedding cake, and watch something trashy on Netflix. I've had enough drama for 1 week." She laughed. "You sure you're done playing hero?" "For today," I said. "Tomorrow I'll go back to being the guy with the beat-up car and the billion-dollar poker face." And as the road stretched out ahead, I couldn't help but smile. Let the world chase attention. I preferred the quiet kind of victory, the kind that glows long after the lights go out.